Good evening. Welcome to the Monday Night Live Real Estate Call-In Show with Coach Mike. I'm your host, Rick Davis. If you don't follow me on social media, I urge you to follow me on Instagram at Prime Real Estate Rick. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in residential or commercial real estate anywhere in the great state of Texas, but especially here in our lovely city of Houston, you can reach out to me directly on Instagram at Prime Real Estate Rick. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you this week for the show. Just like every Monday night at 7 p.m., we'll be here answering hard-hitting real estate questions from not only real estate professionals, but also buyers, sellers, and real estate investors as well. I urge everyone, get involved with the show. Make a video recording of yourself asking a real estate question, submit it to the Monday Night Live Real Estate text line at the number that you see here on the screen. Our staff reviews the questions, and maybe, just maybe, your question will be answered live here on the show. Man, it's great to be here. And as always, my co-host is not only a Texas real estate broker, but he is also the co-founder of Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. I want to thank him for carving some time out of his busy schedule to be here with us again on a Monday night. He's known around our office as Coach Mike. But I want to introduce to the audience, Mr. Michael G. Davis. How are you?
Rick, Cardo Davis, Prime Real Estate Rick. What is going on, brother? How are you doing this Monday?
Hey, man, I'm super duper excited, man. I had a great weekend, man. I've met some great people, had some real positive real estate experiences in the past week, man. So I'm on a natural high, brother. How's everything been going on in your world, Coach Mike, and with Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm?
Man, another great week, man. Had a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. We knocked out our training. We brought in a group, GBR, CDC. They talked about affordable home ownership, preparing your clients that are not quite ready to buy a home. And they spoke about that. So they came in on Wednesday. That was a phenomenal training, learned a lot. Then we also did our new member orientation, man, brought in a couple of more new agents. They're excited, got them connected, got them hooked up, ready to go. You know, we got a goal to get to over 200 agents. That's what we're shooting for, Rick. So we got two more that's ready to go, get them going. We did our study hall with our affiliate members and our mentees, just talk about some of the basics of real estate, prepare them to take that exam. And then we ended the week with a concealed handgun license class. That we typically do maybe once or twice a month. Yeah. So a very, very busy week, man. As always, we're out here doing things, adding to the industry.
Oh, man, that's great, man. That's really exciting news, man. And I hope everyone in the audience stays up to date with everything that's going on at Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. Everyone, if you're checking us out at the Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm Facebook page, get involved in the live chat. Submit questions. Leave your comments in the comment section. Me and Coach Mike love to see everyone getting involved in the show. If you're checking us out on the YouTube stream, same thing for you as well. Leave comments, leave questions, man, because we love to see the interaction with the audience. Because always remember, this show is for you, just put on by Coach Mike and myself. Hey, Coach, man, these questions, brother, we got some hard hitters lined up for you this week, man. You've been doing such a great job assisting everybody, man. You ready?
Hey, look, every week, man, they're getting tough and tough on me, man. I gotta do better. I gotta get ready to go, man. I gotta stay out here learning and growing myself.
Hey, man, well, look, man, you at the plate, man. We finna throw that first pitch. Let's get to question number one.
Let's do it.
Land and government contracts. Is there a particular person in our office, or is there someone you know or would recommend to a client that has an interest in purchasing land for a transitional facility, an inmate transitional facility?
All right. So it looks like Rick did the question. They were wanting, I guess it looks like they have a client, and that client is looking for an inmate transitional facility. And they're wanting to purchase some land. Okay. So here's the thing, right? One of the things that we do know about Houston is that it's the only major metroplex that doesn't have zoning, right? So if you had a city that you were dealing with zoning and zoning issues, then that would be something different. But with Houston, that's not the case. The thing that you would really have to worry about when trying to identify a location is, from a permitting standpoint, what are the requirements as it relates to sizes of buildings, as it relates to amount of parking, as it relates to easements, distances away from main streets. So that's the thing that you would need to know. So before you even go out there looking for the piece of property for your client, you really need to kind of bring in an architect or someone that has a relationship with the permitting department, set up a meeting so they can really speak to these different criterias that will be needed for that particular type of property. And then you could take that information and you could go out and try to find a location that fits within the parameters versus doing it the opposite way, right? Because you could try to go find a land, and then when you put your, when you start laying out the facility, the drawings, the architectural designs, and then the worst thing that could happen is that you realize that there's elements of the land that don't fit within the parameters of the property and the needs of the property. Right. So I would definitely start with sitting with the client, asking the client, because a lot of times the client may not know that they need to do this first. Right. And just say, hey, look, had you spoke with an architect? Do you have some preliminary drawings? Do you understand as it relates to easements and amount of parking and the size, the actual size of the facility that you could build? And based on that, it would dictate how much land you would actually need to purchase. So that's how I would approach it, Rick.
Oh, no, absolutely. It only makes sense because I think in this scenario, the most important thing is the use, not necessarily the geography of the land, if that makes sense for a lot of people. So I agree with you totally. We want to make sure that the land that we pinpoint will allow our client for their best use and what it was that they were having as a goal for the property from the beginning. So absolutely. Great answer, sir. Right, and I want to thank whoever submitted that question, because that was an outstanding question.
Absolutely. Hey, Rick, looks like we got some people in the comments, man. They actually asked a question. Would you like to address that before maybe we move to the next one?
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to the 1409 podcast. And you ready, Coach Mike? Because I want to make sure this is a great question. And what they want to know is, what if you would end up No, they want to know, though, what if you end up relocating out of state after obtaining an active Texas real estate license?
Ooh, so what it sounds like they're asking, man, and shout out to 1409 podcast, man. Yeah. I love what you guys are doing over there. Actually, our co-founder, Mr. LarryWBrooks, was the guest on their podcast before. So definitely want to thank you guys for checking us out. To your question, man. So you got a Texas real estate license, and then you end up going to another state. Well, I think there's a couple of ways that you could handle this, right? If you're from Texas, then you have relationships that are in Texas, right? So you have friends, you have family, you still can market yourself. I would still market myself, definitely utilizing digital platforms throughout the sphere of influence, letting them know that I could continue to assist as it relates to Texas. Now, how do we pull it off? Well, you refer it, right? You build relationships with agents that are still in Texas. And then through those referral channels, you're still able to assist those individuals that live in the state. And you have a level of familiarity, so you can still use that license as a vehicle, as a tool to generate revenue. So that's a great opportunity to be able to do that. Also, apartment locating, right? I mean, there's so many ways. There's so many ways to facilitate helping someone get into an apartment. And you don't have to go with them. Like, it's not necessarily standard for the apartment locator to actually physically go to the unit with the client. They do a lot of their research digitally on the computer. We have great tools like Apartment Data Service that'll give you access to the particular deals and the locations, be able to run lists for individuals. And then you just shoot them the information, and you can kind of quarterback everything remotely. So that's another way that you can utilize your Texas license if you're in another state. All right. So now the next thing that I would look into is, wherever you're relocating to, a lot of the, Texas has some of the most stringent requirements for you to get a license, right? So there are many states that will, if you got a Texas state license, you pass the national exam. There's a lot of states that will take, because they understand that Texas is much more stringent than other states, that they'll allow you to get licensed in their state solely based off of the fact that you passed the state exam and that you've met the Texas state requirements. So depending on which state that you're relocating to, you may be able to get a 2-for-1 and automatically get licensed in that new state and still be able to participate.
Oh no, I would advise anyone who's relocating out of state with a Texas license to look up those reciprocal licensing rules in the state where they're relocating to. Another question in the comment, Coach Mike, speaks towards sub-agency.
Yeah.
How would sub-agency affect someone in this particular situation?
So here's the reality. A lot of people don't really understand what sub-agency is. Sub-agency is really about not necessarily you representing anybody. Like, in essence, you're brokering the brokers. So it's like, well, Mike, what does that mean? What does that mean, you're brokering the brokers? All right. So you're familiar with an agent, and this agent represents a seller that has a particular property. Right. So you don't represent the seller. You just know this agent who represents the seller. Well, because you know of this particular property that's for sale, you run across another agent that represents a buyer that could want to buy that property, right? So you don't represent that buyer. You just know an agent who represents that buyer, and that buyer is interested in that property. Okay, so now, if you bring those two people together, you bring those two realtors together who represent these two people to the real estate transaction, then that right there is considered sub-agency. So in many instances and in many different states, agents who do that are compensated. So in addition to the listing agent being compensated and the buyer's agent being compensated, that sub-agent is being compensated. So in the answer that I gave as it relates to the Texas and you moving into a different state and still being a Texas license, that wouldn't be sub-agency, because you are actually referring the person to another realtor, and then that realtor is paying you a portion of their commission, right? Versus in sub-agency, the client, the buyer or the seller is agreeing to pay that amount towards the sub-agent for making it happen. Well, let me not necessarily saying that. The agents, the listing and the buyer's agent could come to an arrangement to maybe pay that sub-agent as well. But the sub-agent is bringing the two parties together, versus the referral, you're actually saying, hey, I'm going to let this realtor help this client, and then that realtor goes and either finds the property for them or actually sells their property. So they're actually two different things, Rick.
And that's a great answer and great advice. I urge all agents, especially those licensed in the state of Texas, just to do a little research, get an idea of what states in our surrounding region have reciprocal licensing agreements with the state of Texas, and see if there's anything to take advantage of or add to your business portfolio or add to your business platform as a whole. So that was outstanding, Coach, man. I think there's so many agents
on the fly, baby. See, that proves that it's live, Rick D, baby. It's not
absolutely involved
these questions.
and that's the thing, and that's why we urge everyone, get involved in the chat, because the team at Brooks and Davis is monitoring the comments. We're monitoring the chat, and anything like that last question, man, we try to get to live on the air if we can, man. Hey, man, Coach, we got, we threw a bonus one out there. We still got other questions lined up, man, for you, brother. So if you're ready, man, we got some more for you.
Let's bring it. Hey, man, I'm on a hot right now, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Ashley Hill in Humble, Texas, and I have a question for Coach Mike. I have a client who is interested in renting a suite, and I want to know, do we work with those types of clients, or is that more so commercial real estate?
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're getting a little bit of variety today, huh? Prime real estate, Rick.
Exactly.
All right, but no, that you know what? That's an excellent question. Especially new agents really don't. When you hear something, anything other than residential, a lot of times we automatically send it in the commercial space. But when you think commercial, you always thinking big, right? Oh, if that's not residential, that's commercial. So that means it's going to be big. It's going to take a whole different kind of knowledge base or set. And I'm not ready for that, right? A lot of realtors feel like I need to understand residential before I even need to consider commercial. And that's not necessarily the case, because the reality, Rick, is that just because something isn't residential doesn't mean it is big. And to the question that Ashley was asking, she's talking about there are these locations out there, Rick, where people rent small little suites. They may be paying $400 or $500 a month. That's right. What somebody's paying if they rent an apartment, right? And a lot of times, again, it's just a matter of research, right? If a person's looking for something as easy as typing into Google, renting a suite, renting a commercial suite, right? And it'll pull up people that are marketing, that are advertising, looking for tenants for their commercial suites. So the answer is yes, it's commercial real estate, but it's not commercial real estate to the extent of what a lot of us think commercial real estate is. The overwhelming, that's too big for me to even consider. And what I would tell Ashley is that don't be afraid of it, right? This particular situation, what this particular person is asking for, this client is asking for, that's doable. You don't need to hand that off, right? Because a lot of people, they'll hear something like that and like, oh, I need to refer that to a commercial agent. I need to hand that off. No, you don't need to hand that off. Work with your broker, work with your team lead, or there's somebody in a level of leadership in your brokerage firm that should be able to help you in this particular situation. Now, if we're talking about something that is kind of out of your, we're talking about 1 million, 2 million, humongous warehouse or, multi-level office building. And then now you feel like that's out of your scope. Well, again, it doesn't automatically necessarily mean you need to refer it. Just bring somebody in to partner with you. My very first commercial deal, it was a $1.6 million deal, Rick. I brought somebody in to partner with me. And guess what? That was an opportunity for me to learn how to do it. Yeah, I split the commission 50-50. I wasn't able to keep all of the money. But guess what? The next time that I had to do $1 million deal, I knew what to do. So that's what I would recommend. I would recommend take it as an opportunity to learn. Definitely protect the client. Bring in an expert, but don't refer it. Let them partner with you, and then y'all work on it together.
I agree totally, because I look at that scenario that you just illustrated as an opportunity to invest in yourself and invest in education. Absolutely. And ultimately, that's got the 50-50 has to be better than the referral fee for giving it away to someone else anyway. So definitely, that's some advice that I urge everyone in the audience to heed and take notes about, because if you haven't run into that scenario yet as an agent that feels more comfortable working with residential clients, you will, because there will be someone that has a need in commercial real estate. And like Coach Mike was saying, that's not something that you need to hand off. If worst case scenario, you can bring someone in to partner, man. Great answer, Coach. I'm sure that's going to help somebody in the audience.
Yeah, man. Look, it looks like we got another question from the audience, man.
I know. It's the 1409 pod again. Now, and this is a great question, Coach. How long does the 90 hours of continuing ed usually take once you actually get a sponsored broker?
Hey, it takes 90 hours. No, I'm just playing. No, but okay. So here's the way this stuff works, right? Technically, what I just said is the answer, right? Because the way that the curriculum is designed by the state, you're supposed to take the equivalent of 90 hours of education, and whether that's in a class, face to face, you know, you being taught, whether that's online, you know, and you have a professor that's teaching you from the computer, you know, whether you're just kind of being, you know, a self-guided class, it's supposed to technically, in theory, be the equivalent of 90 hours. So the curriculums that the different real estate schools put together, they try to design them to where any particular class would be like maybe 30 hours, right? Or 20 hours or whatever. So by the time you've taken all 6 classes, then you would have gone through that complete 90-hour time frame. So you know what, I recommend to people, Rick, really you got to kind of ask that question to whatever real estate school that you're going to utilize. So and then ask that real estate school, on average, how long does it take for people to go through their curriculum typically? So that's something that I would pose to the real estate school that you decide to go with, right? Ask them that. I know, like I said, technically it's supposed to be that 90 hours, right? But a lot of times that 90 hours can be split, right? Depending on when the classes are available, depending on how long the classes are going to be, it'll dictate that a lot of times. So I would pose that question to whatever real estate school that you decide to go with, and then just kind of ask them on average, how long is it taking people to get through your curriculum and fulfill the requirements of the 90 hours for the continuing education?
Great answer, because like you say, sometimes pacing yourself, speed of education, that kind of thing, there's no real hard and fast rule. So like you said, Coach, it's just kind of like just monitoring, maintaining, and trying to make a consistent, even pace of consistent learning and teaching. So that's great, man.
Absolutely.
Now, look, man, I'm really impressed with the audience today. And and the interaction that we're getting in the comment section, man. Always, I urge everyone, if you're checking us out on Facebook, if you're checking us out on YouTube, get in that comment section, say what's up, and also record the video recording, record yourselves asking a question, submit it to our text line. Our team is going to review all those questions, man, and we're going to try to get to all our best questions live on air every week. Man, Coach, look, how much steam you got left in that engine, brother?
I mean, I think I got one more in me, man. I think I can power through another question, man. I think I can do it.
Hey, man, you know, you like a locomotive tonight, bro. We like a locomotive tonight. We got to keep chugging forward, man. Let's go get to our last question of the evening.
Absolutely.
Hi, Coach Mike. This is Shantae in Tomball. And the question I have is, you were saying that don't go to the conferences if you don't plan on implementing those type of programs into your real estate career. Is that correct?
Okay, so here's the thing, Rick. You know, they have, you know, as you get into this business, you have different organizations like the Houston Association of Realtors or National Association of Realtors, Houston Black Real Estate Association, which is the Houston chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. You have the Hispanic Association of Real Estate Professionals, the Asian Association of Real Estate Associates. And a lot of these major organizations, they have conferences. And, just like in any other industry, you have these affiliate groups that you can become a part of. And most of those groups have conferences, and the conferences are designed, for you to learn, for you to get training, for you to network, for you to meet people. So that's what it's designed for. To Shantae's question, it isn't necessarily that I'm saying don't go to the conference if you don't have the capacity to implement what you learn, because the reality, Rick, is whatever conference that you go to, because a lot of these conferences, man, they're 3-4 days and they're jam-packed. So it's like drinking water out of a fire hydrant. You're not going to be able to implement everything that you learn. Like it's too much. So it's not going to happen. What I'm really saying, Rick, is a lot of people go to these conferences, they meet these people, they get the business cards, they take the notes, they learn these new techniques, they learn these new strategies, and then they implement all of about none of it, right? That's really what I'm saying, Rick. Yes, you need to go to the conferences because that's when you get an expanded mind. And guess what? Houston, a lot of times we have conferences that are local. Like I know our Houston Association of Realtors has a conference every year called the Big E. And it's used to be a technology conference. It's owned by our association, so you ain't got to worry about hotels, you ain't got to worry about travel. And so we have those kind of conferences all the time. The Texas Association of Realtors conference, which covers the entire state of Texas, well, that conference is actually slated to be in Houston this year. I always try to take advantage when a national conference or a regional conference is in the city. I like to take advantage of attending those things. Because you ain't, like I said, you ain't got to worry about lodging. You don't have to worry about travel. It's a great opportunity for you to connect. But what I would recommend is when you do go to the conference, take notes. And then one of my hacks was that every day after the conference, I would kind of prioritize what I learned, what ideas I had, what strategies that I felt like I would want to implement in my business, and I would prioritize it for that day. So by the time the conference was over, I actually had a powerful list of things that I was going to be intentional about executing. So now I'm not trying to execute everything because I know it's not going to happen.
Right.
But at least the top things that I felt like could have a major impact in moving the needle forward in my business, well, I wanted to really spend some intentional time reflecting and identifying those items, put them at the top of the list, and then kind of list everything else under it. And then at that point, I just start from there, beginning to implement the things that I learned. So it's not so overwhelming, right? I'm not just sitting here looking at this massive piece of stuff, because that's what freezes people, Rick. They get home, they see all of this stuff that they learn, so they never start. So I'm saying, see all of it, prioritize it, pick the first thing, and then just begin to focus on that, get that one done, and then just start working your way down the list. So that's really would be my take on the conferences, going to the conferences, and best maximizing your time when you're at the conferences. You definitely need to go to them.
No, the most interesting part of the advice that you just shared with the audience is the portion about taking advantage of the events that are happening locally. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs and business people, we look at the larger, more grandiose national conferences as the only conferences worth our time or energy, not really necessarily understanding that a lot of those things have to be kind of designed in a way that is one size fits all, because there's so many people from so many different areas, and you get the most profound advice and the best advice and things that you can actually implement, to your point, at local conferences. So I urge everyone in the audience, anything that's going on in the city of Houston or the greater Houston area, take advantage of. follow all the local organizations that are putting on education conferences, networking conferences, because I think that's where you'll get the most bang for your buck, to speak to Coach Mike's point, man, because I agree totally. Absolutely. And then, there's always some things that we could be taking advantage of on a local level that we just might be looking past, that someone else might notice. So I think that's also an added benefit of being more involved locally.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I can say as an organization, we are planning on going. So the National Association of Realtors conferences in San Diego this year, due to COVID, a lot of conferences have been postponed for the last couple of years. So people are, they're being cautious, but they're slowly, opening, having in-person meetings and things again. So we're slated to shoot up to San Diego this year for the National Association of Realtors. It's been some time. It's not something that I do every year. The last time I went to the National Association of Realtors conference, I believe it was in New Orleans, and that may have roughly been about 5 years ago. But I do encourage, when you have the opportunity to go to these more national, it takes you out of your environment, takes you out of your element. And the great thing, Rick, is that those people, they don't feel no threat. You're not in their territory. You're not in their city, right?
Right.
So they'll tell you everything that they're doing because they're not at risk of you competing with them. So that's another great thing about going to those national conferences, because you get great information, techniques, strategies that are working in other areas that you can begin to implement in yours. So that's another one.
Man, I would advise, like you say, if everyone can get involved, because that's one of the things that Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm that we're really big on is family, being able to support each other, and being able to attend these conferences as a team, because there's always strength in numbers. And Absolutely. For those Texas agents that may be checking out this week's episode, or local agents from Houston that may be thinking about going out to that national conference, just know you won't be alone. There'll be a team from Brooks and Davis that's out in San Diego as well. Coach, we're getting towards the end of this week's show. So I want to ask you, man, I want to ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience what's going on this week at Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm.
Absolutely, man. But before I do that, man, I want to shout out a couple of people that came on with us today. Mr. Leo Jackson is actually a former agent of Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. We partnered with him on a couple of things and a couple of builds that he was working on. So shout out to Leo, man. He's doing great things. And Miss Kimberly Barnes, actual chairman, she's the chairperson of the Houston Black Real Estate Association, former president of the Houston Black Real Estate Association, nationally recognized. She actually won Realtors of the Year at the national conference of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. So definitely want to shout her out as well, man. Thank you all for chiming in. And then 1409 podcast, man, they the real MVP today. I think they got one more question. Rick, you want to try to knock that question out before we bounce out of here, man?
Oh, yeah, because it's a hell of a question. What the 1409 podcast want to know is, Coach Mike, how long do you think we'll be in the seller's market, sir?
Man, like,
pull that crystal ball out, Coach. Pull that crystal ball out.
Let me get my crystal ball out of my box right there.
Right.
You know what, man? I really don't know. Here's the reality, though, Rick. It don't matter. Now, let me tell you why it don't matter. Because whether it's a seller's market or whether it's a buyer's market, somebody making money. I promise.
Right.
Somebody making money. Now, what I do feel though is there is about to be a transition. I do feel, as with this moratorium, with the on the rentals, the moratorium on the rentals, with because what people are not really paying attention to is you have this moratorium on rentals. You have the where the federal government is paying rental assistance, but that's in an ideal circumstance, because guess what? If I'm a landlord and my tenant is not being cooperative and they're not filling out the proper paperwork that's needed for me to get my rental assistance, then And if I have a mortgage on the property, how's the mortgage getting paid? Right. So I feel like there's something happening behind the curtains with all of that, you know, once this moratorium kind of moves out of the way, and once these freezes on foreclosures kind of move out of the way, that it may be a rush of foreclosures and defaulted properties onto the market. It may not. I don't know. But something is going to happen, Rick. And knowing that something is going to happen, that's usually when the market begins to shift, when there's a shock to the system. So I feel like through the pandemic, through the situation, what was going on with people not being able to work, people having to transition, these moratoriums, people just making bad decisions on not using the money the way that they should have used it, mismanagement, that is going to be a shock to the system. And because of that, you need to be vigilant. So what my recommendation would be is not necessarily trying to determine when it's going to switch, because I don't feel like that's something that we can figure that out, right? There's people way smarter than us that all day, that's all they do is sit and try to figure out these economic trends, right? We ain't going to figure that out. So instead of spending the energy to try to do that, let's constantly be vigilant and search for the next opportunity that we can try to take advantage of when there's that shift happens and when that shock comes to the system. So that's how I would answer that one, brother.
Oh man, and see, we didn't even see the crystal ball. See how you keep it nice and off screen? I see you keep the crystal ball off camera, bro, but I didn't even see you looking at it.
Can't see the crystal ball, baby. Can't see me. Look, it must be in my head, man. It must be right there.
That's what it is, man. Look, man.
I want to, man. But yeah, let me jump into what we got coming down the pipeline. So you know what, man? We typically do our Real to Life podcast and our Mastermind Through Tough Times on Tuesdays. This week we're not going to be able to do it. Actually, have to tend to some family business, so I'm not going to be available on Tuesday. But guess what? We'll be back the following Tuesday. So it's going to be all good, all good. Now, on Wednesday, we are bringing in a great friend of Brooks and Davis real estate firm. White Star Title is going to be coming in, doing a lunch and learn. It's going to be doing a training. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the link for you to be able to register for any of our events. As long as you're a licensed realtor, you can attend any of our events, whether they're in person, whether they're online, whether we're providing lunch, whether we're not providing lunch. You can come to the event. All you have to do is RSVP at the link, fill out the information, and then that's how you reserve your seat. So this Wednesday, White Star Title is going to be bringing in some lunch, and they're going to be talking about and educating us on the title process, some of their services, and more importantly, Rick, be there to answer your questions. If you're a brand new agent, you've never met a title person, you don't really understand how it all works, come to the training, come to the session, ask the questions. Matter of fact, even if you don't ask the question, somebody there's going to ask the question, and you're going to learn some information that you previously didn't know. So we're going to be doing that this Wednesday at 12 o'clock. We also got a happy hour. You know, our happy hours be nice, brother. So we got a happy hour that's being brought to us by Don Hall with Brinks Home Security. It's going to be at Camp Houston. I've never been to Camp Houston, but I heard it's really, really nice. So that's going to be this Thursday. Beginning at 3 o'clock, we're going to be at Camp Houston again. All you got to do is RSVP at the link. Let us know you'll be there. We give my man a head count, and it's a great opportunity to learn, network, learn about what Brinks, from a security standpoint, has to offer realtors in their affiliate program. So it's a great time to take advantage of that as well. So that's what we got coming. That's what we got going on, brother. That's what we got going on.
I know, man. As always, man, it's going to be a great week at Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. And I want to invite everyone in the audience to check me and the Texas Real Estate King, Mr. LarryWBrooks, out this Thursday at noon on the Prime Real Estate Network podcast. This week, what we'll be doing is we'll be reviewing this month's edition of the Texas Realtor Magazine. So for all those Texas realtors out there that has the magazine subscription and haven't had a chance to check out this month's issue, me and Mr. Brooks will be reviewing this month's issue for you all. So I want to invite everyone. If you don't follow us on Instagram, you can follow the podcast at Prime Real Estate Network. You can subscribe to the channel and set notifications at the Prime Real Estate Network channel on YouTube. Hey, man, Coach Mike.
Yo.
Another episode in the can, brother, man. Hey, look, man, you getting comfortable, man. You getting your sea legs, brother.
Hey, man, look, man, I like doing this, brother. I like doing this, man. Let me say one last thing before we shut it down. Mm-hmm. Look, I really like this. So if you're in the process of getting your real estate license, or you're with a brokerage firm and you're thinking about making a change, man, we're about to put up another link. I encourage you to visit the link and schedule a personal company introduction with me to learn how we train, educate, and support our agent members. Like, I'm comfortable doing this, Rick. I get fulfillment out of this aspect of real estate. This is why I still do it. If it was just me, if it was just a matter of me working with buyers or working with sellers, working with clients, I'll say it on camera, man. I don't like doing that. Therefore, I don't do it no more. What I do is I help others. I've been doing it for a long time. I've learned this business. And what I really enjoy doing is helping others, educating, training, and supporting others. So I encourage you, schedule that in-person appointment. We're serious about our agent support program, which includes our mentorship. We didn't really talk about that today. Our mentorship program, our one-on-one coaching, and even those individuals that are not licensed. A lot of the questions that we had today were from individuals.
Well, seems like we might have lost Coach Mike, but I would like to thank Coach Mike. And on behalf of Mr. Michael G. Davis, Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm, I'm your host, Rick Davis. Until next Monday at 7 p.m., if you need anything, we're only a text, call, DM, or inbox message away. So until next Monday, everyone out there,